What up, y'all? It's your man Quest, and this is your marriage moment. Let's go.
It's a full tank in the getaway. So before I break your heart, you should get the engine started. It's nothing like a nice drive in the summertime, sunshine with the roof going to help you move on. So get a move on, get your mood right, maybe start a new life.
All right, so we're back at this place again. I've been getting a couple of messages saying, Quest, yep, I heard you talk about, conflict resolution the last time, and I heard you say humility is your protection, but could you help us navigate through, a couple of examples, or what does that look like? All right. So we're back at this place called conflict resolution, right? And let me just say this. Conflicts arise in marriage usually after the first 2 years of marriage. Why? Because research shows that the lovey-dovey feelings or the newlywed feelings, those tingly, bubbly feelings usually expire after the first 2 years, right? Now, some are a little bit longer and for some a little bit less, but the average is about 2 years, right? And when the average lovey-dovey feelings wear off, right? Now you're getting to see each other, and the things that used to be cute aren't so cute anymore, right? The things that you used to just let go by, you don't necessarily let them pass anymore, right? And so you're going to need some tools in order to navigate through those difficult and challenging moments. And let me just say this, right? There are a couple of things that being able to do that, right, will require. And so we'll talk about a couple of them on how to navigate through when conflict arises. And conflict is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that you have two different viewpoints, and naturally so, because your circuitry is different. You're wired as a man, she's wired as a woman. And so you're not always going to see the same your views are not always going to be the same as it relates to every situation, right? So one of the things that I would like to share with you as it relates to navigating through, or one of the tools that you can use. I'm gonna share some other ones in a couple other videos, but yeah, you're gonna have to subscribe, right? But the first one I'd like to share with you is the one that I'd like to call the nationwide ministry. Yeah, y'all remember the commercial, right? The tagline, "Nationwide is on your side." Y'all remember that, right? So basically they're saying, yeah, we're on your side. We're with you, right? But before you understand the fullness of what the nationwide ministry is, there's a couple of things. There's about 4 or 5 things that you need to have that are necessary in order to adopt that tool, right? Number one, the same thing that I've said before, and I'll say it again. Humility is your protection. In other words, like for real, you have to be able to adopt the principle, practice, and policies of humility. You got to be humble, right? That's number one. Number two, you have to have a certain level of maturity. Now, remember what I said. Maturity is not necessarily something that comes along with age and experience, right? It is taking responsibility for the way you think and how your thinking transcends into or translates into the way that you express yourself through word and through action, right? So that's maturity. That's necessary. The second thing that you need to have, like for real, is the absence of pride. The word declares that pride goeth before a fall. Like for real, don't let pride be the thing. If, as a matter of fact, when you don't have the tools to properly navigate through difficulty, what you'll realize at the base of it or at the root of it all is pride. And the third thing, which you'll also find at the root, is selfishness, right? So the first one, you need to have maturity. Second one, you need to have an absence, right? Like throw pride out the window. And the third one, selfishness, right? You have to have a selfless attitude in order to operate in the nationwide ministry, right? Being on your side. The fourth thing I would say is to treat your marriage like it's your client, right? In a business client relationship, you're trying to give your client the best experience possible, right? You're trying to provide them with the services that not only they need, but they deserve as well, right? As a client. And I'm saying that treat your marriage as the client. And when I say treat your marriage as the client, I'm saying that marriage is more important than who you are individually, right? Because marriage is two. Marriage is not one, right? And so the nationwide ministry, right? What that basically means is that you are adopting, right, the ideas. After listening to the ideas and the heart of your spouse, you are realizing that for this particular occasion, it is probably better to go with the ideas of your spouse as it relates to this particular occasion. Case in point, when Faith and I were getting married, right, she was living in Charlotte at the time. I was living in Atlanta, right? And we were trying to decide Atlanta, Charlotte. When we got married, where were we going to live? Was it going to be Atlanta or was it going to be Charlotte? And I'm going to be honest with you. I did not want to move from Atlanta. At least in the beginning, I didn't. But after we sat and we spoke, where she was in terms of her career, like what I was doing in terms of my job, I could easily pick up, and it would be easier for me to pick up and move because I can do that job anywhere, right? But she had been vested in her company, especially in a couple areas of her department, right? And so after hearing her heart, after us having the conversation, I decided that, okay, it's probably better that we not uproot you. We keep you right where you are, and I'll pick up and leave Atlanta and I'll move to Charlotte. And let me say this to you. And here's the good thing about the nationwide ministry. You have to do it. When you're choosing to take the side or meet your spouse on their side as it relates to a conflict, right? You got to do so with a positive attitude, right? Don't come back, even if it doesn't work out. Don't come back and say, I told you this wasn't going to work. No, don't do that, right? Because it's a team. You're working together. And number one, what I said, you have to be mature, right? Taking responsibility for the way you think and how that thinking transcends into the way you speak and how you carry out your actions. So remain mature. Don't operate from any selfishness. I didn't operate from a selfish place, right? And I didn't operate with any pride, right? Nationwide ministry. Sometimes it is better through maturity, through the absence of selfishness and through the absence of pride, taking into consideration that your marriage is your client. Sometimes in order to dissolve the conflict, when you listen to the ideas of your spouse, when you listen to their heart, and you take those things into consideration and operating in those principles that I said to you before, sometimes in certain occasions, what you will realize is what your spouse is suggesting is better for the marriage. At the end of the day, it's not what my expectations are. It's not what your expectations are. It's not my way. It's not your way. It's our way. What is going to be best for the marriage? And I'm telling you that if you operate in a nationwide ministry as it relates to difficulties, man, you can really win, right? Remember what I said, maturity, absence of pride, absence of selfishness, right? Treating your marriage like it's the client. And remember, above all, humility is your protection. Always be humble. And I promise you, if you accept the nationwide ministry using those principles, you can navigate through some pretty heavy conflicts in your marriage. And I promise you, you do that, you'll be in the place that you need to be in, man. Do me a favor. Operate with maturity. And when your spouse suggests something that you find is better for the marriage, better for the relationship, rather than operating in pride and saying my way is better, you can never win operating in pride in the first place. But do me that favor. If you realize that your spouse's idea is better than yours as it relates to conflict, do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Rock with your spouse's idea. Remember, the marriage is more important than the two of you as individuals. Believe that.